Good evening, everyone. My name is Trevor Gordon. I do the communications with the Canadian Epilepsy Alliance. Today, I'm going to interview two guests at one time. So I'm apologizing in advance. I'm a little nervous. I am fully nervous. I've never interviewed two people at one time. I mean, I've had conversations in real life, talking to hundreds of people at one time, but I've never talked to more than one person interview-wise at the same time. So today we're going to interview someone named Sabine and Tali. And these are two of the individuals behind the epilepsy documentary that is coming out called Epilepsy the Film. So let me just do a quick couple highlights about Sabine and Tali. Sabine, by the way, is someone that I met a couple years back. She was kind enough to put a spotlight on Epilepsy Shop. It's one of the epilepsy initiatives that is going on. So a couple years ago, Sabine was kind enough to purchase shirts from Epilepsy Shop. So I'm actually just going to read a little bit about Sabine. Sabine is a Lebanese-Canadian director who has worked with leading industry professionals in both the film and music industry, bringing her unique perspective to various projects. With a collective reach of over 15 million viewers. Over her 8-year career, her industry work has been featured on Billboard, E-Talk, Dundas Square. She has produced for high-profile clients and artists, including Sony Music Canada and YouTube Premium. So she's done a lot, that's for sure. She's set to debut her first writing and directing short film debut, a Lebanese immigrant story, slated for release in the fall of 2024. She's also working on her first feature film documentary, scheduled to premiere in early 2025. So that's Sabine. A lot of great highlights here. Tali, she's our producer, she's the producer of the Epilepsy Film. She's a producer, actress, and a writer in the industry who thrives on creativity and storytelling with a passion for creating characters to life. She got her start in theater with commercials, transitioning into TV and film. During COVID and the SAG strike, she realized she wanted to take control in an otherwise uncertain industry. She turned to writing and producing. In all aspects of her work, though, she embraces empathy and curiosity. Her recent film credits include 12 Desperate Hours, American Rust with Jeff Daniels, wow, that's cool, producing credits Hey I Know Frank and The Will. Both of these two people are awesome, and I will put both of their bios online because I didn't read their whole bios because there's just so many great highlights that the two have of them. They're both going to join us. I'll wait for the two of them to join, and I will apologize to them profusely for maybe brutalizing their intros.
Hi.
Hello, how are you? We'll wait for your co-host to join.
I believe she's clicking in. Thank you for the intro.
Yeah. As I said prior to you joining, this is a little nerve-wracking for me because I've never interviewed two people at one time.
Yeah.
So it's two energy forces of you together.
Yeah.
It's throwing me off my game, I have to say.
Yeah, I've never done two either, so this will be interesting. But
it'll just make our boxes a little smaller, I think, right?
Yeah.
So let's enjoy our size boxes until she joins. Well, while we're waiting for her to join, I want to thank you. I think we met, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Probably 3 years, like around COVID time, so maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. So Epilepsy Ontario started a project. Oh, I see she's sending a request. There she is. Epilepsy Ontario started an Epilepsy Shop campaign, and you were one of our very first early supporters of that.
Oh, nice.
So we thank you for that. Oh, and thank you for joining.
Hello.
Hi. What you may have missed is my brutal intro for the both of you. But as I was saying to Sabine, I'm a little nervous because I've never interviewed two people at one time. So two talent forces together is, I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous. I apologize in
But
advance.
don't be nervous.
All good.
But the boxes look good. I thought they would make them really small, but it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good.
Awesome.
So I apologize in the sense because I'm interviewing two people, my questions won't be in perfect order and they might kind of go backwards and forwards. But I'll start off by saying this is really awesome what you're doing. Epilepsy, I'm preaching to the choir, epilepsy never gets spoken about enough. Epilepsy is always told that it's this rare disease, but it's not a rare disease. It's a hidden disease, but it's not a rare disease. So before I get into my line of questioning, what's the past few weeks been like right now on social media for you? You've kind of created these little teasers. I've been loving what you guys are doing with like your postings. You're being very calculated. What's been going on the past few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we launched our campaign March 1st. That was the first time I've ever been public about my epilepsy ever. So it's been overwhelming, but in a great way. And also emotional as well, like getting to meet so many other epilepsy warriors and hearing their stories. Is my audio okay? Oh, okay.
It's a little echoey, but we can hear you.
Okay. But yeah, it's been very overwhelming, very busy, but we're really building like a good community and movement through this. So I'm really excited to see like how far it's going to keep going and growing, essentially.
And you beat me to the punch because I was going to ask you what your connection to epilepsy was. I didn't want to just assume. So from what I read in your bio, you've lived with epilepsy for 15 years. How was that first time? Like, how old were you approximately? Like, how was that first moment when you were diagnosed?
So yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 9. So it was, I didn't really get a chance to process it. It happened very quick. It was one of the like tonic-clonic. I was actually in Lebanon when it happened, so I wasn't even in Canada. And yeah, it was pretty drastic. It ended up being like a status epilepticus thing, and then flew back to Canada and kind of went through like the medical trials. And then from there, I think the biggest impact it had was like my age 9 to 18 probably. After that, I was able to be like fully, stabilized and focus more on my health and stuff. So I kind of forgot the first bit of your question, but yeah, my story, it's been a long journey for sure, but now I feel more comfortable talking about it, which has been great.
And to segue to Tali, am I pronouncing your name correct? Tali?
It's Tali.
Tali. Okay, I'm like totally making your name sound more than it was. I apologize.
No, I know, it's okay.
How did the two of you meet?
Oh, well, so Sabine was looking for a producer out of Chicago because we are actually working with Cure Epilepsy in Chicago. So she knew that she wanted boots on the ground there. And I had just finished producing 2 shorts over the fall, and I was looking to get involved in more producing work. And she actually posted in just a Facebook film group saying that she would find a producer in Chicago. And I saw her post and I reached out to her and we had a meeting and we just kind of hit it off right away. And that was the end of last year. So now we've been working together for about 4 months on this project. And yeah, no, it's been a wild ride so far.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I'm going to go all over the place with questions. I'm not the perfect interviewer by any means, but Sabine, you talked a lot in your bio and some of these teasers about SUDEP not getting spoken about. I mean, full disclosure, I work with the Canadian Epilepsy Alliance, and the Canadian Epilepsy Alliance is made up of 25 epilepsy agencies across Canada. We do a lot of work with the Epilepsy Foundation in the US. We do a lot with SUDEP Day on October 18th every year. But we always say SUDEP is the elephant in the room. Like, we know it's there, we're aware of it. And even during COVID, we did a lot of interviews with neurologists who even would say that neurologists sometimes are afraid to talk about SUDEP. And it's just one of those conditions that even though we know what it is, we know it's there, it doesn't get spoken about enough. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's really disappointing that it's not talked about a lot. Because when I was a kid, I think I asked the doctor if I could die from epilepsy, and he was like, "No, you're good, you're good." And then, 10 years later, I learned that that's not the case, and I didn't even learn it from a doctor. I learned it from a foundation, like the Cameron Boyce Foundation. So that was really like a shock. And then I remember also calling my neurologist and asking him about it. And he's like, theoretically it could happen, but it's really rare, so don't worry about it. But that kind of pushed me to be like, well, if it's, it's rare, why are we not talking about it? Like, even if it is quote unquote rare. So then it kind of created a bit of an anger, because it's like people should be informed about it, even if it's not the first, the first appointment when you get diagnosed and they're like, by the way, SUDEP, like I get it's a lot, but at least within the first few, once you've like confirmed your diagnosis or whatnot. So yeah, I do think that it's just something that they don't really talk about, whether it's like not trying to scare patients or trying to be more, I don't know how to explain, just like trying to not throw a lot on you, but it is a unfortunate reality. So I think it needs to be spoken about. And that's what we're doing with the film too, is like diving into that a lot, because there's not a lot of information about it, or not as much as there should be.
I would like to ask you both this one question. What are your thoughts about epilepsy in film? I mean, obviously you both are coming out with a really exciting project. So putting your project aside for a moment, what do you think about the past films, past documentaries, past mentions of seizures in film? Like, what are your thoughts about it? Because I mean, I say this because in years past, Canadian Epilepsy Alliance has worked with the Epilepsy Foundation, where there's Netflix documentaries and these TikTok challenges with Seizure Boy, and all these things are, everyone thinks that seizures are just people shaking on the ground. And we all know that there's over 40 different types of seizures. They're not all just what you see. Mm-hmm. And we always say it's not what you see in film. Right. That's literally our catchphrase that we say in the epilepsy world. It's not what you see in movies. Right. So what are you two are in this world. Like, what are your opinions of that?
Well, I can speak from someone who actually didn't have a lot of knowledge about epilepsy. I saw it in TV and film, and while I knew it was probably an exaggeration of the condition, I didn't really understand the condition. And so for me, the last few months, really actually learning about epilepsy and learning how it's way more than just a seizure, it's kind of opened my eyes to how misinformed society is kind of taught what epilepsy is by putting it in TV and movies. Also, we talk about it because that's what we're doing, but there's never been a documentary on the condition that people can watch and get educated on. So I think the overall general population is very misinformed about what epilepsy looks like. And then also, it's called an invisible condition, but in TV and film, they only show it or highlight it as an active seizure, when the majority of people with an epilepsy diagnosis maybe aren't having active seizures. Yeah. So I think, that's also part of the change that needs to happen within mainstream media, whether that's, TV shows or movies. There has to be a push so that people can actually start to understand what epilepsy looks like, and why it's called an invisible condition, and how it affects them in way more ways than just a seizure.
Yeah.
Sabine, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it sucks the way that it's portrayed on television and film, like, especially when I was younger and I was first diagnosed, and then I would see like episodes of TV shows with someone having seizures. I wanted to just like shut it off. Like, I actually couldn't watch it. So I think it's really just not portrayed right. It's almost seen as a very violent thing, a scary thing. Like, you'll see it in horror movies, or there was an episode of a show, I won't say the name, but it was like 20 people at once drop and have a seizure. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, this is just offensive, in my opinion, in some ways, because those writers in the writer's room, like everyone should have more knowledge to know not to write scenes like that, and to be a bit more open. Or if they knew someone, let's say, with epilepsy, then they could know, like, hey, this might be, like, we should portray this better. So I think that I'm definitely here to want to change that in the way that epilepsy is portrayed in television and film, and just to have, yeah, more accurate representation, because it's like just so misconstrued.
For those that are just joining us, we are watching, you're watching two of the awesome people behind this new documentary that there's been buzz in the epilepsy community about, Epilepsy, the film. If this is a very informal discussion, if there's anyone that wants to post a couple questions or comments, I will share them. The one question I have for the both of you too is, you say that this is at least that you're aware of, the only documentary film, or the first documentary film of its kind for epilepsy. My question is, what are your thoughts about similar, maybe if it's not a documentary, but from what we're seeing in the past few months, I'm seeing a lot of epilepsy related movements or films, or I think I sent you both a link a few days ago of different, maybe it's not as big, but what are you thinking about all these projects that are coming out? One, obviously, is this a good thing? And two, like, what makes your project different from these other ones that seem to be all coming out around this time?
Well, I actually, right after I joined this project, I saw all of the movement behind Under the Lights, which I'm sure people in the epilepsy community have heard about. It's a fiction short, or it was a short film. Now it's going to be made into a feature, and it's about a boy who goes to prom knowing that the lights at prom could maybe cause a seizure for him. And that didn't discourage us in any way. If anything, kind of like you said, I was like, oh, we're part of the wave. We're part of this shift in mainstream media. So like, I reached out to them right away and talked about potentially collaborating, because the whole point of all of this is to bring awareness. So I think the fact that there is kind of a movement happening right now within the epilepsy community kind of raises everyone up together. So, you know, it's actually very exciting to see other projects being made, other films being made. I know a lot of them are fictional, and ours is a documentary. And I think, you know, I guess that's kind of where we are different. But I think it all raises awareness, and it all kind of brings attention to the same community, which is important. And yeah, there's never been a feature-length documentary that's really explored epilepsy for everything that it is, which is insane, because you can probably find a documentary on most medical conditions. And with epilepsy being so common, it's, when I found out there hadn't been one, I was mind blown, because you kind of just think to yourself, it's so common. Why isn't this talked about? Why isn't there a movie that someone can watch and kind of gain a better understanding of? And so I think, again, part of this wave where we're like, hey, look at this community, like, take it, be a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, to add on to that, in terms of like our doc and something like this not being made before, one of the interesting things in the lenses we're going through is, it's a big part is reaching the mainstream media, right? So the lens that this documentary is going through is in a way intended for people who know nothing about epilepsy, and it's told by someone with a filmmaker with epilepsy like myself. And yeah, it's going to be a great way for people with epilepsy like myself. Like, growing up, I literally never had a film that I could watch that gave me any reassurance or any information. Like, the ones I would search on YouTube were really graphic, and they were just like not done right, in my opinion. Like, I think you have to have also some like empathy when you make stuff like this, because you do need to be, you know, cautious. But yeah, the way we're going about it, where it's not just exploring one form of epilepsy, and it's not just about one thing, but like various forms of epilepsy, various seizures. We're going global. We're going to various cities. So it's like we're really taking that global route versus just sticking into one lane with it. And I think that's what makes it so unique, and it hasn't been done before, is because we're really like widespread. We're just going global with it. And yeah, so it has a unique twist, and it's documentary too. So that's, as we know. We said that, yeah.
So, Sabine, I asked this question to different public figures, different celebrities that I've had the pleasure of chatting to about epilepsy. Why do you think, speaking as a person with epilepsy, why do you think it's so important as to use your voice to talk about epilepsy awareness, not just in the sense of conversation with your friends or your family, but using your art, you're using your craft to now sort of, literally go on the top of the hill and scream it that you're not just living with epilepsy, but you're actually looking to, create awareness and do something about it. A lot of people out there, and that's part of what we do with the Epilepsy Organizations is we're wanting to tell these stories. Mm-hmm. We're wanting to let people know here in Canada, over 300,000 Canadians have epilepsy. This is not a rare disease. Yep. It's a hidden disease. So why do you think it's important for you and your role, your art to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as creatives, I do find that we have a responsibility, or we have the opportunity to use our creative knowledge for good. That's the way I look at it. I think we have such interesting talents and interesting platforms that if you can use that as a catalyst, especially like me being in film, use that as a catalyst to make a change, then why not? Especially knowing with something like visual media, whether you're a painter, whether you're a filmmaker or writer, just being able to use that and show people in different ways about the condition too, right? People retain information differently. And I think that if you have a special talent or something that you're dedicated to, you I don't want to say you should be and just throw it at everyone, but why not? Why not use that as a platform and give a voice to other people? And I think it all comes at the right time. For instance, if you told me 5 years ago to come out about this and do it, I probably would have been no, not ready yet. But now I'm so open about it, and I feel like I can, like you said, scream it from, did you say rooftop, mountain? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll go with rooftop, but I said hill, but yeah, same thing, yes.
Yeah, I just think, everyone has a different career goals and career trajectories, and I just think it's important, if you can, to use yours for good and something that you're passionate about, why not? And mine happened to be epilepsy, so yeah.
You feel though, there seems to be a movement happening. It just seems, I don't know if it's everyone has podcasts these days, everyone's going on TikTok lives, Instagram lives, but it seems like everyone is going on IG and interviewing people and talking about epilepsy. And this is awesome. Yeah. I mean, we're not close to where we want to be. Way more people need to be talking about it. But for sure, I've noticed, at least in the past, even 6 months, a year, it seems like everyone that I see is just a lot of podcasts, a lot of conversations. Mm-hmm. So I think you're both coming out at the right time, but this just seems to be, I feel, a movement here of a lot of conversations. Do you feel that, or is it just me? Maybe I'm too brainwashed in this world, but I feel something.
No, I do. I 100% do. And I think it might be at a point where we're just kind of sick of not having our voices heard or having our voices misrepresented. So it feels like this whole wave at once coming right now. And I hope that that's only going to open more doors for more accurate media about epilepsy. So no, I definitely am with you on that.
So next week, I know you both are going to be speaking to the 25 epilepsy organizations, telling them about your project. What are you looking to do with the epilepsy organizations? How can the epilepsy organizations, give them a teaser to what you're going to be talking to them about next week? How can epilepsy organizations work with you, or how are you going to include them in this? Because let's be clear to those watching. I mean, you agree that epilepsy organizations are helping the community. You're basically saying, we need to talk more about SUDEP. You're not saying that epilepsy organizations aren't doing enough. You're just saying we should be doing a lot more. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're clarifying that you're here to promote epilepsy organizations, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Speak on that. We have been very open in the process of collaborating with different organizations, different advocates, different foundations. Because like you said, they are doing work, but how can we amplify that message? How can we continue to spread awareness and then bring back everyone towards the goal of, trying to find a cure for epilepsy? And so for us, we're not afraid to collaborate in any way possible, whether that's just cross promotion. We talk about their organization, they talk about our documentary, having people potentially speak in our documentary or do like this, kind of garner awareness, whether that's for our film or for their organization. I think it's really important to highlight all the hard work that these different organizations are doing, because we wouldn't be where we are today within the and there's one foundation I can think of based in Atlanta that we've been talking to called Angels of Epilepsy, and I think that's a perfect example of, while doing this documentary, we found different places to connect with and kind of expand with. And Natalie, I don't know if anyone here knows her, but she does really work that she created from the ground up and helps provide like medical devices to families that need it. She provides medical care for those who need it. And, she's finding a way to help the community give back to her community. And so I think it's really important to continue highlighting all of these efforts of other people. And that's what we're trying to do as well with this documentary, is highlight all of the efforts going into this community, but then there's still grow. It's how can we all work together to continue to grow and to continue to, garner support and have more advocates and have people fighting for this community.
Can you give me, because I have some two good questions to ask you, but give me your elevator spiel, give me your trailer, give me your teaser. What's this epilepsy film about? Like, we've been getting, again, I'm so excited for this. I've been seeing all these teasers, but tell us, it's 30 seconds, 60 seconds. What's the epilepsy community? What's the world going to expect from the two of you with this project? What is this a project about?
Okay, I'll on this one. All right, time me 30 seconds. I'm joking. So basically, this film is, at the moment, it's going to be going through my lens as a person living with epilepsy, taking the audience in to meet various families and various individuals around the world dealing with epilepsy in their day-to-day, and humanizing the condition in a way that hasn't been done before, and really seeing that epilepsy is so much more than a seizure. On top of that, we're having medical professionals, researchers that will be essentially providing like the scientific facts, where we're at, to back up the stories that we're saying and give that educational perspective to people who don't know. And then alongside that, we will also be showing various foundations globally that are a part of that movement, and where people can also reach out and help and take part. So really the documentary is going global in a way of like, just, you're going to be able to see so many different perspectives and so many different voices, but all with the same goal, which is to find, a global cure for epilepsy.
So I'm going to ask this question one more time. I know I'm asking the same questions in different ways, but I really want people to hear it loud and clear. What is your goal with this documentary?
To change the future of epilepsy.
Yeah.
And those that are watching right now, whether it be an epilepsy organization, whether it be a person living with epilepsy, whether it be a person that has a family member with epilepsy, whether it just be a person that likes seeing 3 boxes on Instagram, where can people donate to your crowdfunding campaign? Like, how can they support? Like, what's the way that they could, partner with you or join this movement? Like, I mean, tell us about the crowdfunding campaign, but also other ways that they could support you.
Well, so we have our Instagram page, which is Epilepsy the Film. Mm-hmm. And on our Instagram page, in the links, you can find our Indiegogo, which is our current crowdfunder. So if you feel like donating, you can donate to our documentary there. We're also, like I said before, always open to collaborating, because we say this isn't just a film, it's a movement, it's a call to action. So it goes beyond just the process of making the documentary. So if you can't, financially donate to the documentary, you can just spread awareness. You can start conversations about epilepsy. You can share a post that we post if you like it. It's really just about making this conversation. And I think that's one of the biggest things you can help, is just sharing, commenting, starting conversations, and just becoming a part of the movement.
So what about specifically epilepsy organizations? Like, because I know you both have been doing a lot of legwork. The one thing I'll say about the two of you is like, do you both ever sleep? Because I know you do, both have been doing so much work on the back end. And I know next week you're going to be speaking to 25 epilepsy agencies all at once next week, which I'm excited for. But if you're an epilepsy organization watching right now, whether it be here in Canada, the US, all over the world, how can they, the epilepsy organizations, support you?
Well, I don't know if Sabine wants to add, but starters, you can reach out to us. That's kind of how we've been starting every conversation, is just by reaching out and saying, how can we work together? Kind of see, you know, like how you guys have a meeting coming up where we can talk to more different branches of the organization. You know, even just having a conversation like that is so important, and, you know, bringing awareness to what we're doing, but also to what they're doing. So we're always open. If, you know, anybody wants to email us, our email is epilepsythefilm@gmail.com. If anybody wants to DM us on Instagram, you know, we can take it from there. We're really open to exploring different ways to work together. And so it's not really like us saying, what can you do for us? But it's like, what can we do for each other, is kind of the way we've approached this. Sabine, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I think you covered all of it. Yeah, essentially, like Tali was saying, it's not just, it's kind of how we can support them too and amplify their message. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when are you looking to release this project, and like how many days are left in your crowdfunding campaign?
So we have 28 days left in our crowdfunding campaign. And then the release of the documentary, I mean, it's all tentative right now, but I would say early 2025. So at the moment, yeah. So yeah, we're just looking for, you know, support and help us make this happen, essentially.
And have you both been probably like, do you have like a chalkboard? Are you keeping track of how many countries? Like, I don't know how many foundations across, like all over the world. Like, I'm intrigued by this because I know all the different communities that I speak to on a day to day. So, how many countries have you connected with?
Well, in terms of who we've kind of lined up for the documentary, the three main ones so far have been Canada, the United States, and the UK. And we're going to be talking about other countries as well in that. But in terms of like foundations we've kind of partnered with, or, you know, speakers we have, those are the three so far. And I think that's kind of what's been really fun for us during this pre-production stage, has been just outreach and people from all over the place, and, you know, getting stories. And I even joked today, like, I'm going to make her a map of who we have speaking, so that she can look at and shape her story for the documentary. But no, it's been really, you know, for someone who didn't know a lot about epilepsy before this, like, I've learned an insane amount in such a limited time. And I've said to Sabine that I feel like we represent our with this documentary, whereas like she comes from the epilepsy community and I come from the general population. And with a little bit of time in there, I'm an advocate. Like, I'm ready to fight for, you know, for epilepsy and for Sabine. And that's kind of our hope with this documentary, is to provide a film that not only make the epilepsy community feel seen and heard, but also inspire movement in people who maybe don't really understand epilepsy. And by like creating this web, as I like to call it, by like outreach to different countries, it also just shows you, like I said before, how common it is. And it's like every time we talk to one person, they open the door to 10 more people that we talk to, and then they open the door to 5 more people, and it just keeps going and it keeps expanding. So that's been really exciting.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, but have you connected with Cassidy Megan, founder of Purple Day? Because I think she would be I know she's the person that has a burst of energy, and I know she would love to hear about it if you haven't already connected with her.
Yeah, so I actually met her in Vancouver. I think, was it last week or maybe a little, over a week ago, and we actually did a sit-down interview together. So I got to interview her. that'll come out really soon, and got to meet her, and she's so inspiring. And like I think our interview was just supposed to be a few minutes. We ended up talking for like an hour.
Yeah.
So she's great. Yeah,
She's awesome. Her and her mom Angela are friends of mine. They're awesome people. And if anything, prior to hitting this broadcast, I invited Cassidy to join, but she's dealing with a million things for Purple Day coming up. So I was going to surprise you both with Cassidy, but it didn't work out. But and I apologize. I know we went longer than I said that but so many good questions, and you both are awesome. I'll ask you this one last question. What would you both like to say? A lot of parting words from the two of you.
Parting words.
Positive words. We're going to talk again, but last words for tonight at least.
I don't know. I think join our movement. I think this is a really important cause. It's something that I think a lot of people, if they just took the time to understand, could really get behind. And, like I said, I think it goes beyond just the epilepsy community. I feel like there's a lot of people out there with hidden illnesses or chronic illnesses that can relate. And it's we're out there trying to make the world feel smaller and more connected by talking about this, so that people don't feel isolated and alone, and you don't have people like Sabine that's scared to tell her story in fear that it'll interfere with her life or her dreams. So we're trying to kind of eradicate that fear and make everyone kind of feel seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to add on to that, because you covered a lot of good points, Tali, but like we said earlier, we're here to change the future of epilepsy and also humanize it. And so like my ending thing would be too, is just to consider, learning more about epilepsy and joining the movement. Even just like a follow on our Instagram page is a help in itself to simply keep up with, because we're not only, posting about the film, but we're posting like facts and what is epilepsy, and to learn more, and really any form of social media support, or just even, how with the support we've been getting already has made such a big difference. And we know that that's just all going to lead to something really great. So, yeah.
Well, the two of you are amazing. I thank you both for your time. Again, I apologize multiple times for the intro, just because I was a little nervous. Hey, full disclosure, I'm not a professional TV host. I work for an epilepsy organization. I'm trying to get better. I think I'm okay, but I could get better. But this is the first time I've interviewed two people at once, and I apologize for a little bit of the nerves, but I thank you both for everything you're doing for epilepsy awareness, creating these conversations. Sabine, I have to give you an extra shout out just from 3 years ago during COVID, you being one of the first customers of Epilepsy Shop and putting a spotlight during COVID and all that fun time. To the public that's watching, these two have not had a chance to talk to the 25 epilepsy organizations yet. I should have maybe did this interview after they spoke to the agencies, as I do this, but give them time to talk to the 25 epilepsy agencies before you talk to the epilepsy agencies. These two are the ones that you should talk to for anything related to this project, whether it be supporting their funding campaign, whether it be, asking questions about the doc. These are the two to follow on social media. The epilepsy organizations have not met these two officially yet. They will be talking to them next week. So for now, talk to these two on social media. And someone just wrote, Sabine is a superstar.
Thank you.
And Chris wrote, sometimes we have to face our fears. And as we wrap now, all of a sudden all these comments are coming in. But to you both, I really thank you both for everything that you're doing for the epilepsy community. And I am looking forward to this project coming out. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.